What's up, Denver? Chris Lopez here, and today we're going to be talking short-term rentals and Airbnb. Now, most of you know the regulations for Denver County. We will talk about those, plus the other parts around town, actual numbers you can expect from short-term rentals. So my co-host is Lauren Valinotti. Lauren, good afternoon.
Hey, thanks so much for having me on this show today.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you on here because this is something we've been talking about the last few months to start exploring more of, so we can, increase our knowledge and give more resources to our own clients as well. And we have a really good property management company here today that actually specializes in short-term rentals, and they are called AirSimplicity with Shalom and Jonathan. Welcome, guys. Glad to have you on the show.
It's good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
So tell us how you guys got started into short-term rentals.
So I got started, I was doing property management in Dallas, moved to Colorado, got my license, wanted to get into the real estate game, investment game, bought a house, primary residence. I was able to do it at 5% down minus my commission. I was able to get in with like $10,000, spent another $10,000 on furniture or so, and quickly realized that I'd make a lot more money doing Airbnb rather than doing long-term rentals.
And this is while you're living there?
This is while I was living there. Okay. I was going away for weekends. I was kind of just testing out the model before I realized pretty quickly that it was profitable. Grabbed a backpack, went to Europe. It was great. Paid for my trip. Realized I was onto something. Did it again about exactly a year later, almost to the day. And then about a month later after that, John and I went in on something together. Also, same format, primary residence. This was in Denver before the tough regulations. And then it kind of snowballed from there. After we had about 5 or so, realized that, just kept learning, had the knowledge. John and I partnered up. We're like, okay, we can, we're doing this well for ourselves. We can help other people make money with short-term rentals as well.
So the property management grew organically from you guys building your own portfolio, operating them, building the systems in place, and you realized, we probably have another business on our hands. We go out there and help other investors operate their short-term rentals.
Exactly.
Okay. So Shalom, you in Dallas, were you doing short-term property management or just traditional property management?
Traditional with it was 250 units.
Okay.
And I was an assistant manager. So
you're just doing like an apartment complex?
Yeah.
Okay. So did any of those skills translate to short-term rental?
No, not really.
Okay.
People skills, always good to have, I think, in business, but no, not really. Yeah.
What's your story, Jonathan?
Yeah, so I actually was convinced by Shalom to move to Denver 6 years ago. We purchased these houses 5 years ago or so, but part of his sale to me was, hey, we're going to start a business one day. We're going to get this done. And when I saw him purchase his first house, I was like, I got to get in on this as well. So while I purchased that first house with Shalom, I was actually working at the University of Colorado Cancer Center, and I've translated a lot of my skills, the detailed skills of getting cancer patients on clinical trials, to all the skills that I use in AirSimplicity, our company, whether it's all the bookkeeping, a lot of the crisis management, things that occur during crazy Airbnb stays, and just managing the people in the business. So luckily, my skills have translated as well.
Great. And then you guys started investing 5 or 6 years ago. When did AirSimplicity become a business?
It was in 2018 we incorporated.
Okay. So about 3 years ago, right?
3.5,
okay.
3, something
three,
like that.
3.5 years ago. Okay.
But we really started operating in 2019 was the end of 2018. We got a couple of properties.
Yeah. 2019. Yeah.
Okay.
Really started.
And so let's start off with just, define a short-term rental for us. Like, what is the textbook definition of a short-term rental?
30 days or less. And there's no, I don't think Merriam-Webster's defines it, but according to most counties and municipalities, it's 30 days or less.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now let's talk about the regulations, because I think everyone is familiar with Denver. That has to be a primary residence, but elaborate on that and talk about other parts of Denver Metro. Like, this gives us the rundown.
Yeah.
Sure. So in Denver, we know the laws. You got to live there. You got to be in the house, basically. There's ways of getting around it if you live in an ADU. But generally, if you're not living there, you really can't do it in Denver. There are areas around, such as Lakewood, Aurora, that pretty much have the same laws, and that's pretty prohibitive. Wheat Ridge recently opened up. So if you have a house in Wheat Ridge, you can manage up to one Airbnb, totally legal. There's no limitation on dates. You can have it running as a short-term rental, Airbnb, whatever you want to call it, all year. Other areas around, such as Adams County, near Denver, currently don't have any restrictions at all. So in that regard, there are pockets around where you could do it, as long as we always say to be a good neighbor, because once people start buying up properties and turning them into Airbnbs, if the neighbors get upset, the laws quickly change. So we always encourage that.
And I'll add that by this, it's 2021, most cities have figured out some type of structure, some type of regulations. There are some that haven't. That could work both in your favor and against you. So, I guess the next few years we'll see some of these other cities kind of figure out what they want to do. Like Wheat Ridge, for example, just a couple months ago, created their regulations.
And so should investors be concerned about hey, I buy a place in Wheat Ridge, for example, where they're allowed. Should investors be concerned that they may change their laws like Denver did? Because I know a lot of people, they're doing very well with Airbnb. Then Denver changed the regulations. They're like, oh, I got to pivot or sell some properties. So how much of the consideration is that?
So this actually happened in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs pretty much totally opened up. And within 5 or 6 months, they tightened their regulations a bit. You can still get a short-term rental license down there. But yeah, I mean, I always say regulations are really the enemy of short-term rentals. So it doesn't seem likely to me that a place like Wheat Ridge would change the law that quickly. They're charging a 10% tax on top of all the revenue that's coming in. A lot of money is going to be coming into the municipality. So they're incentivized also to keep this going in a way that keeps people happy in the neighborhoods.
Do you think that where Denver County is today, that it would be restricted even more, or are we kind of at the baseline and it could only maybe progress and open up a little bit more?
Okay, yeah. So there was a push for the 183.5. I think that's half of a year or something. That there was they were going to try to make that the absolute limit on how many days would be allowed. Mile High Hosts and a few other advocacy groups pushed forward really hard to do our best to totally squash that, which worked. And post COVID, I'm sure the municipality and the city probably needs the revenue. So who really knows? But hopefully it doesn't. I personally hope it doesn't change for more restriction.
Yeah, Mile High Hosts, and shout out to them, by the way. They're the biggest advocacy group here in Colorado. You can find them certainly on Facebook. But they're pushing for an investment property that everyone can have aside from your primary residence. So I don't think we're going to get there anytime soon, but hopefully in the near future we can get there.
So it sounds like you guys, I mean, you're obviously a lot more plugged in than Laura and I are in terms of just the advocacy groups and potential bills on the horizon. You guys aren't too concerned about local municipalities getting more restrictive on short-term rentals.
I think Thornton, if it was Thornton or Westminster, one of them is going. I spoke to one of the people that work in their city council, and they're saying that they would consider adopting some licensing procedures, but it seems like it's not a restriction. It's just you need to get a license, you need to follow a few codes and just a couple restrictions, but not nothing crazy. Nothing like totally banned. Like in Boulder, it's pretty much banned for anything less than 30 days in Boulder? I don't remember exactly, but it's pretty tight out there. So
I think before anyone invests, you should definitely do a deep dive into where the city stands. Maybe go to the city council. I've met with a couple of the zoning guys there, just feel it out. Definitely highly recommended.
Because, myself included, a lot of our listeners are very familiar and active landlords, like traditional long-term landlords. They got multiple properties, they got long-term tenants in there. Let's start talking about how these properties operate from traditional long-term rentals, both from a management perspective, an operating expense perspective, profit, like everything. So I'm not sure where to start with that question, but that's like the biggest thing that I want to know, and all our listeners do as well. So if I'm coming to you as a new client saying, hey, I want to go out there, buy a place for a short-term rental, where do you start that conversation with me?
Definitely a big question. It's a different ballgame. It's very there's not that much in common. It's a lot more profitable, but it's a lot more work as well.
And that's been, I mean, one of the things I've looked at, because, you know, the cash flows is one perspective of real estate. You know, one of the 4 ways to make money in real estate is a lot of times when I've looked at numbers with clients, you know, after they've done it for a while, a lot of times like, yeah, you know, I'm making extra money, but all the extra time putting into it, it's not worth my time making extra $12 or $20 an hour. So basically the juice isn't worth the squeeze. So can you walk me through like the numbers on a property and just kind of the general stuff to consider when we're looking at buying short-term rentals?
Yeah, where can we start on that? Just what the difference would be?
Yeah. I mean, what would you say, Lauren, as far as a starting point? Because I'm looking at this, and I don't know if I'm articulating my question well. It's just like, hey, we got clients who want to go out there and buy properties. They want to make appreciation, you know, take the tax write-offs, but also make better cash flow. So when a client's looking at this, how do you help determine if doing the short-term rental is right for them from a time perspective, the extra money up front to furnish the place, and just operating expenses, all that stuff? Like, I don't even know where to start with that.
Shalom, I think a good place to start would be how you do a prospective just cash flow analysis.
Sure.
With prospective clients.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. That would be a good starting point. It's hard to quantify how much more work it's going to be. I mean, we can get into some of the operational aspects of it. So the first thing I would do is I would go to AirDNA. I would see what they're projecting for this property. I would compare that to what it would make as a long-term rental. Obviously, if it's not, at least a couple $100 more. It's not even worth considering. Caveat, AirDNA, while it is probably the best software out there, we've found it to be pretty inaccurate, unfortunately. But that would be a good starting point. And then just going through, obviously you have to consider the regulations, you know, do they have, and then, the nitty gritty, do they have cleaners in place? How do they plan on operating it? And all these things.
And so let's say we go out there, buy a property. I mean, we'll kind of do a scenario, put you guys on your toes here. You've got a couple new build townhomes under contract in Nevada, Lauren, you know, $506,000 price point. Give us a quick rundown on one of those, because I know some clients are looking to do short-term rentals, both as house hacks or just straight investments, since Nevada does have favorable laws. What's a rundown on a property like that? I'm going to put you guys on the spot and try to get your opinion on those.
Yeah, so I don't have the exact numbers. I should have looked at that before coming on the show today. But one of our clients that's already doing the short-term rental in Arvada, he's a house hacker. The property, they were able to retrofit the property to where it was a private entrance. It was downstairs, a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom, pretty good sized room to where he could build out a kitchenette. His long-term plan, that was a 2-car tandem garage, was also to put a wall up in there and expand the area, taking away one of the parking spots. But the first steps that we did is we used the software, AirDNA, and we're able to, and that what that software does, it gets local comps, right? It shows your competition in the area, what the nightly rate is going to be, and it does a calculation on what the occupancy is. Can it also break out the monthly rates as well? So you're able to see when the premium months are as well. And whenever Shalom was talking about AirDNA not being accurate, it actually underreports the amount of revenue that we think that the property is actually going to make, which is good because, you know, how we do our underwriting, we do everything on a very conservative level as well. So, hey, you know, worst case scenario, you're going to make more money in the end of it, right? It's not a bad problem to have. And so it was a no-brainer for our client, you know, for their lifestyle, for what they were trying to do. Like, he wanted to utilize his asset to quickly generate more income to where then he can go and quickly go buy property number 2. You know, and it wasn't getting a long-term tenant in there. So if they had family coming in town, they still would be able to use it if they wanted to. And they can kind of turn it off and on whenever they want. So that first initial investment for them was very low as well, because it was just a 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom. So the furniture cost for that, you know, wasn't like a $10,000 initial investment. But the location was primarily why this Airbnb is going to do so well for them. It's walkable to Old Town Arvada. And it's a brand new build. So I think we've chatted about this before, is that if you're, a regular rental, the finishes and the updates that you're going to do for it, it just needs to be good enough. But you guys were saying, though, on for our Airbnb, when you go to market the property, you really do need to kind of take that next level of your finishes. Because again, it's your competition's there, and you want to make sure that your property kind of stands out to the other ones. So it was a brand new build, had all the bells and whistles that you already wanted. The location was great. And so they for surely knew it was a great opportunity for them as well. And then they can Airbnb it whenever they move out of the property as well.
And they would Airbnb the entire unit?
That's a part of one of their strategies, because again, with Arvada, since now the rules there, they do allow you to own up to 3 short-term rental properties there. I think there is a limit to how many days it can be occupied. But, we chatted before the show, just some good strategies of how to maximize that asset to ensure you're staying underneath the amount of days, but also still getting the potential income that you were looking at.
And the garage expansion, would that be a second bedroom in the basement unit or this downstairs unit?
I think for what he was wanting to do is more like a living space, like living room. But
cool.
I think that having a conversation with you guys of doing the analysis, like what would make more sense? Because again, the location, most likely these people that are going to be renting in this area, they're going to be going out to eat, hanging out with friends, not necessarily needing a space to cook and do all that. So it might make more sense if we look at the property with them, you'll get a better return just creating a secondary bedroom. So that would be a good kind of case study to look at for them.
What was the makeup of the other unit? How many bed bath?
Downstairs was the 1-1, and then upstairs is it's a 2-2 upstairs. So master bedroom with the ensuite, and then the other bedroom is good size bedroom with the ensuite bathroom, and then there was a half bath on the second floor. Mm-hmm. But beautiful finishes.
Yeah.
It's beautiful product.
That makes a big difference for sure. We found that normally going bigger, combining the units is generally going to be more profitable. A lot of people think, like with long-term rentals, if you can split it up into 2 units, it's usually more profitable that way with long-term rentals. But short-term, we even have a couple of duplexes where we offer both the units together. And these things bring in so much money. And I think the reason is because it's so niche. When you're 5, 6, 7, 8 bedrooms, there's just not a lot of product out there, so you can charge a premium.
So bigger properties generally are more profitable in short-term rentals. Mm-hmm. So the more beds, the baths, the better. Is that the punchline?
Yep. And the finishes that we were talking about, because, if you get a great professional photography and you're competing with all these other properties that are also fantastic. So you really just want to stand out.
Yeah.
What about the other bells and whistles that can come with the property to help you stand out? Like the
hot tubs,
accommodations. Yeah. Is that something that you can kind of say, hey, let's invest $4,000 in a hot tub. There's no other homes with a hot tub. We can show you a pro forma of how quickly you'll be able to make that investment back and also profit.
We can't. Every little thing that you can do is going to be helpful, but I don't think we'd be able to isolate and say, hey, a hot tub is going to cost you X amount and you'll get this return in X amount of days, right? It'd be very difficult to do that because everything else would need to be the same. But everything that you can add to stand out and make yourself unique, it goes a long way.
Right.
All right. So let's say, for example's sake, we're taking this 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom place in Arvada, new build townhome. What does it take to get it up and running for an Airbnb?
To get it up and running, it needs to be nicely furnished, not just thoughtfully and with designed well, but also practical, right? And we've learned these things over the course of the last whole bunch of years. Small things like having a USB outlet in the lamp next to the bed, or
making sure you have a colander in the kitchen. We're stocking the kitchen with 50 plus items. Every single kitchen, you want to be able to cook a full meal in that place. Maybe not in this Arvada home per se, but if a family is coming in for a graduation, they want to be able to go to the store and, not spend tons of money on food and make that meal in the house.
So what's the average cost? Furnish it from, furniture and TVs and kitchen and toilet paper and trash bags? Like, what's kind of the initial upfront cost?
I think the formula we came up with was 6,000, give or take, 6,000 for a 1-bedroom with an additional 3,000 per bedroom. So most of our properties are between 4 and 6 bedroom and will cost between 14 and 18,000.
Okay, and that should get you kind of in for everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in terms of operating expenses, obviously, like, the owner still has to pay their mortgage. They're paying taxes. That doesn't change whether it's short-term or long-term rental. But then things like insurance. I'm assuming there's a different insurance policy for short-term rentals, right? Or does it depend on your carrier?
A little bit.
There are other short-term rental plans, but a lot of like farmers, for example, or travelers, you can pay for like a rider on there that they acknowledge that it's a short-term rental, and it's maybe a couple $100 more a year. It's not that bad, at least for the houses that we've insured.
So we can assume a couple $100 more expensive for insurance policy is a rough rule of thumb?
Yeah,
okay.
I would say maximum 1,000 if it's like a really nice house, maybe. But and there are more boutique short-term rental like per day, let's say you only rent it out like a month a year. So you don't want to have a plan for the entire year. You just want to have it for those specific dates. So that is possible as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And then what about the other operating expenses? I mean, we talked about the upfront. We talked about insurance. I know I'm missing a ton of stuff off of there. Like
utilities.
What? Yeah. Okay. Utilities.
Yep. So electricity, that's normally a long-term tenant pays for that. Water, trash removal if you're in a more unincorporated area or a smaller town. Internet, TV. If you decide to get it, we use like a satellite. What are they called? The not rabbit ears, but you can pick up a lot of channels for free in our units. We just do that, and people are happy with that, and most people are streaming anyway.
Anyways, yeah.
So
just put a Roku on there or something,
or just a smart TV that has it, Wi-Fi built in. It has YouTube in it, has Netflix. That's a huge plus. We have that in every single one of our houses. What other operating expenses are there?
Cleaning fees.
Right.
That's huge.
Right. So the cleaning fees. So every single reservation, we charge a cleaning fee on top. So let's say the rental, the nightly rate was $1,000 and there's a $100 cleaning fee. That cleaning fee doesn't go to in our company, doesn't go to the owner, but it goes straight to our cleaning team. But if you're managing the Airbnb yourself, then you can take that cleaning fee money, and if you're going to clean it yourself, you're basically paying yourself for cleaning the house.
Mm-hmm. So actually the short-term renter is actually paying for the cleaning fees. So
correct.
Technically it's not really a expense for the owner.
Technically, yes. Yeah, I agree with that.
What about taxes? Because we have the regular property taxes, but I know a lot of questions will come up around the short term. There's an additional tax, and I guess maybe every city might be different, or is it just the same across the board?
It's definitely different in different cities. So in Wheat Ridge, they just enacted their short-term rental laws, and apparently they're taking 10% on top. So if you make $10,000, you have to give $1,000 of that to Wheat Ridge, from my understanding. And
is there another tax as well that's already being taken out from Airbnb
in the transaction? Like
right.
If you look at the breakdown of the transaction, you'll see some taxes. I don't know exactly which taxes they are, but we don't even get that money. We don't have to pay it.
Right.
I thought it goes straight from the platform to the
platform pays it.
Okay.
Municipality.
And that's like I think that might be like the hospitality tax. Mm. But again, that's being passed down to the consumer. So it's already being taken out, and Correct. It's already being paid for by the renter in a sense.
So in a sense, it's not really an expense for the property owner.
But Wheat Ridge is taking an additional, it's sounding like.
That's my understanding.
Okay. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Denver too. Denver's 10.75.
But Denver collects it on the front end, so it doesn't actually affect the property owner. But Wheat Ridge, it sounds like, is on top of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it does vary per municipality.
I have a question on the Air DNA reports. That number that you're seeing, is that after the taxes have been taken out?
Probably.
You think so? Okay.
Yeah.
Good question. So too. I know it includes the cleaning fees.
Okay.
We asked them about that.
Okay.
And more of just operational expenses. When you're running a long-term rental, obviously you have to keep the house in good running order. But when you're running a hotel, basically, the house has to be in great shape all the time. Someone walks in and there's a cabinet door hanging off, like that doesn't look good. You got to get that fixed immediately. So those kind of things, the urgency of getting that fixed, you just got to make sure you have a good maintenance team, and that it's hard to say per property how much that is per month, but at least around $100 a month goes to maintenance on average.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and that's not replacing consumables. That's actually just
fixing
the property.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Consumables also around it depends how big the house is, how many people are staying there, how much toilet paper is used, shampoo, all these things, soap, about $100 a month as well, we've found.
Okay.
So,
and then in terms of, let's start talking income here.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we all know Airbnb, based on supply and demand and weekend or time of year, the price does change with Airbnb. So how can people best determine rental income? And I actually would like to kind of walk through some general numbers on, hey, great, we got rental income. What's the average, profit or cash flow looking like on short terms compared to some long term stuff?
I wish I could give you a good answer, but it's really tough. And I don't think there's a good general answer that can be given, especially with AirDNA not being as accurate as we'd like. But generally we know that it's significantly more profitable than long terms. We can go through some specifics.
And also location really matters. Like if you find a way to have a 5-bedroom, 5-bath in downtown Denver through some means, I mean, that's going to be significantly more than a 5-bedroom, 5-bath in Centennial or something. So it really depends on where we're talking about. And
so making sure you're trying to find the points of interest, music venues, stadiums.
Mm-hmm.
I even think hospitals, would also be a point of interest if anyone's needing like longer term care, specialized medical care.
Absolutely.
They're going to be there for a long period of time. So just, I guess, really just trying to focus on points of interest to ensure that you're going to have the most occupancy rate.
Yeah, and there's a lot of operational things in there too. I mean, obviously getting good reviews, good ratings, that's key. Just good management, I think in general, good pricing optimization, those things like that all come together to make a really big difference.
Yeah, and I know you guys want numbers, and I'm thinking in my head, like we have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in the Highlands area. And last month it brought in probably gross, I'd say 6,000, maybe 7 actually, if you include the cleaning fees. And that owner doesn't clean it himself, but if he did, that'd be another $1,000 there. But at the same time, a 5.3 in Centennial brought in the exact same amount. So it really depends on where we're talking about, and so that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what's the average cash flow? Or pick a property, walk me through, like, just, we got the ideas and expenses, give us some high levels on there. Like cleaning's obviously a big part of the operational expense. I mean, I've heard 15 to 25%. Is that the ballpark for cleaning?
For cleaning fees are 20%, almost
20%.
Yeah, that's almost exactly average. Yeah.
What about property management fees? Because I mean, this is one thing. This is, it's a hospitality business. It's a lot more labor intensive. Either the owner or you guys are doing it. What's the property management fee like?
Property management fees will run you from anywhere from 10% to 45%. That's like in Summit County.
Yeah, it's quite the range there.
It's quite a range. We're 20 to 25%. So it just depends on where you are, but I would say that's industry average.
Why doesn't it matter where you are? I mean, why do you say that?
To add, so let's say, you have an interesting property somewhere in the middle of nowhere. We're definitely open to helping with management there, but we need to basically have an entire team of people that are willing to or able to service that house at any time. So operationally, just from our side, we have to find a cleaner, a plumber, electrician, maintenance person. We need backups of each. And for us, if it's really just operationally difficult, we're gonna charge more for that.
Yeah, and I think some of the 10% management companies are mostly individuals. I don't think they're doing as much. So they can be co-hosting, so really just helping out with the listing. Maybe they're just doing some aspects of the management, but full spectrum. Yeah, you're not going to really get much less than 20%.
Okay. So if I come to you guys manage a property for me, is it passive? My hands off?
100%.
Okay.
Except we don't pay utilities, mortgages,
anything
that's
with
pretty much
permitting.
it.
We don't do the permitting. We can help out,
We help, yeah.
but we're not going
With
to
like the short-term permitting?
yeah,
Okay.
like we'll help the owner figure that out, but we're not going to like submit it on their behalf, and which can be complicated actually.
Yeah.
But it's fully hands off. Monthly payouts, sent direct deposit right into bank accounts, and
And the only thing, if there's a big renovation that's needed, we'll just request permission, but otherwise it's 100% passive.
And so you guys mentioned just how, geographic centric you are with Airbnb, because I've heard, cleaners and handymen are so critical to running Airbnbs, making it operational, and you have to, obviously, economies of scale there. Are you using like in-house vendors? You just have like great referral partners? Like, how do you scale up that way?
we use both. So if we have one property in Jacksonville or near Jacksonville, so Shalom went down there and found a great team. But they're all contractors that they don't work for us directly or anything. So 1099 people. But we need to also not just assign the cleanings to them. They have to also be in communication with us. So like something's broken, the cleaner finds something's broken. We need to then send that message over to the team. And just along with that, we were talking about just like the operational difficulty. It's like the cleaning, the maintenance, but we're also talking about guests on their vacation. If there's anything wrong, we're there to answer 24/7 and to fix that as soon as possible too. So that's where the reviews come in. When the reviews are not great, then Airbnb or the other sites actually, put your listing way farther down on the search engines.
And that's really tough. That's certainly one of our biggest challenges, as I assume would be for most people, is just having a team that's available almost 24/7 of people you trust who can get there within generally a couple of hours. I mean, guests expect these things to be fixed immediately. I'm hiring probably about a person a week, 90% of them just, don't make it, but it's just meeting just really good people, having a deep roster of people who can do everything across the board is really integral.
And when you're managing one unit, it's not that bad. Like if you have one investment property or two investment properties, we're talking about, 4 cleanings a week, 5 cleanings a week, maybe a maintenance call. But, when you're talking about 30, 40 properties, it's a lot, so very important to have really reliable people. Most of our cleaners that work with us, they are 1099 people, and, they basically show up when they can do it and they finish it, between 11 and 4. And we do our best to optimize, same day check out, check in. So to get that revenue.
So operational expenses are obviously higher. But going back to like you mentioned, like a 5-bedroom, 3-bathroom house in Centennial. Mm-hmm. So, for long-term rentals, that's going to be around location, all that $2,300 to $2,900 a month. Mm-hmm. Maybe a little higher now, but $2,500 to $3,000 a month rent. What's that look like from a short-term rental standpoint? Like if you guys were managing that, over the year, kind of removing COVID and that craziness last year, what type of numbers can a person expect from a property like that?
So we could break it down because it was about $70,000 to $80,000 annually. Mm-hmm. And then it's generally about a third to remove for management and cleaning. So
$78,000 in gross rent.
75. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Call it 75.
I think it was more than that.
We're at 50.
Yeah, I guess we're kind of averaging here. Mm-hmm. So yeah, like 50, and then what else is left? I mean, the small stuff, maintenance, utilities.
Yeah, what's that, like 3% or something? I remember the calculation.
I don't know. I always try to figure out a formula for that. It changes so much. What would you say? $1,000 a month max for maintenance? I mean, probably less than that.
Not 1,000.
So 40. No. So we're looking at like 40,000, probably 45. What do you think?
I mean, just that alone, that's
a lot of money.
That's a really good number. Yeah. I mean, I think on our long-term rentals, our clients can be happy with just breaking even. Mm-hmm. We're seeing 2,000. Our house hackers that are going the extra mile and doing a room by room, they're able to kind of see those kind of numbers. Well, not even that, but.
And this is actually, this house that we're thinking about was it built in like the 50s? I mean, it was definitely remodeled, but it's nothing extravagant by any means. And if it was, it would be making a lot more than that.
Yeah, we're seeing numbers that are much higher. Like Vrain, the property that we own together, was our second year we did $120K gross.
Yeah.
So I mean,
with
subtract
$4,000 a month in operational expenses, maybe $4,500.
right.
So
how many rooms was that one?
5.3.
Okay.
Yeah.
In what area of town?
That was in Denver.
West Denver.
Okay.
Yeah, Barnum.
Barnum.
You know,
Barnum.
not like Cap Hill or anything. But yeah, just
So
nice
you're pulling
house.
120, so $10,000 a month in gross revenue.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think, now we're learning, we're still learning about what makes, how to get those kinds of numbers. And yeah, we're figuring that out. Like the cabins. So I just bought a couple of cabins. It's 4 cabins up in the mountains, and it's doing now, I paid $500,000 for it. Put in about 75, 80,000 of renovations, and it's bringing in, it's like 15, 20,000. Certainly some of the summer months will be 20.
Yeah.
And then it'll probably
it'll be
average.
more than 20. It'll be more than 20.
It'll be more than 20.
Yeah, it'll be 30.
Wow. Yeah. If you're pointed about it, you're strategic, I think you can do really well.
So kind of stepping back to that Barnum house, you were able to make that when that was technically whenever the rules were allowing it. Let's kind of talk about, for someone that owned a home in Barnum, it was their primary. They did a lot of travel, or maybe they had like a downstairs basement where they could lock off, live down there, and like Airbnb the top. What could be a strategy for that homeowner whenever they move out of that house and they go by their next primary being located in Denver County? What would be a way to, what's a loophole to be able to still maybe not do long term, but
oh man, with Denver, I've tried everything. I really have gotten fined so many times, and it was worth it.
But what if you do 31-day stays and do the medium term?
Maybe that might work.
During COVID, we did that because families were working remote. They needed a place to stay for 3 months, and it worked out during COVID. I think, it would probably be more profitable than a long-term rental. Yeah. Any numbers in mind? How much would, we actually, our property in Barnum was bringing $5,500 a month. So
for medium term.
Yes. So
31 plus days stays.
Yes.
Okay.
I think it was about, when I did the math, and this was all during COVID, so I think our data is a little bit skewed, but we were making about 30 to 40% on top of what the regular long-term rental rates are going for. We were providing 100% furnished houses as well. Again, that's COVID, so everyone, but midterm stays and these type of stuff, just 31 days plus, are becoming more typical. Even Airbnb has a product that's catering more to longer term or midterm stays. So I think it's becoming more accepted, more known.
And so, all this sounds really good. Obviously, it sounds like I can make more money, be, less, or be hands off with working with, like you guys. But what are some key points for investors to keep in mind? Because you guys know short term, long term rentals. Like if someone's out there evaluating this, what are questions you would ask them or have the person ask themselves? Like, hey, should I invest in short term or should I invest in long term? Or maybe it doesn't matter. What are some good things? I think about this myself. I'm upper 30s now. I've got 2 little kids. I'm very, very busy with family. I'm very, very busy with Envision Advisors. I don't sleep as much. I'm like, cool, anything that's more work for right now, I don't want to do it. And I'm at that point in my life by see you guys, hey, great, there's more cash flow. But what type of questions from like me should I be asking myself to help determine if short-term rentals are right?
How involved do you want to be in the process? It sounds like not much, let's just say.
Basically what I have with my property managers now, I say, unless there's something drastic, like the place is burning down, it's over $1,000, don't call me. Just use your judgment, get it done. 15 minutes or less a month.
We love to work with you. So, that's we love working with people that are, understand that, there's going to be a little bit of upfront costs, some cost per month here and there. But if the investor has that mindset of in the long run, this is really going to make a lot of money over time. If someone's willing to let go and accept that, that's very helpful. And I think, so your question is what should we ask people, or what should you guys be asking us?
we got people listening to this podcast who are like, wow, this sounds intriguing. Every real estate investor has thought about short-term rentals. Every single one of us has. Are there any questions they should be asking themselves while they're considering it, or am I overthinking that?
I think a couple things to consider. I think it is a little bit more risky. That's for sure. Once it's operating, I mean, listen, if it's someone else is managing it, it's about the same. Like, it's generally just not your headache. So I would say there's not much of a difference there. Probably the biggest thing to take into consideration is furnishing costs, right? I mean, up front, we're talking about $10,000 to $20,000 on top of everything, top of the house costs, closing costs, any renovation costs that are needed. I'd say that's the big one. But other than that,
And it sounds like, Jonathan, to be more blunt in your answer, it sounds like you're saying if people stay their way in line to do your job, that's your preference and you guys operate better. Because I'm all about, like, I mean, that's what we try to do with our clients here. Laura and I, as we work with clients, just like, hey, we know what we do. Tell us what you want. We'll go out there and do it. And we just get it done. And that's usually what we like from our partners. And there's, well, hey, just like, I'm not an expert. I don't do this crap 50 hours a week. You guys do. Just take care of it and send me the money at the end of the month. Like, that's what I'm concerned about. That's what I like. So it sounds like you guys are good with being very hands-on and having pretty passive investors, as long as they know the risks, they know the numbers, they've got the vision, they got communication, and they can write a few checks to get up and running. Is that a fair summary?
Mm-hmm. I think so.
I'd say so. I guess the other question is, like, is this a property the person already owns? Do they need to throw 20% down for an investment property? That can turn into a lot of money in today's market. So if they already own that house, like your friends or clients in Arvada, it could be very lucrative.
Right. Absolutely. I do think that, like, one question that every investor needs to ask themselves when they're thinking about going into short-term renting is going to be the things that we cannot control, but obviously will affect us long-term. So always, I think it makes sense to look at a plan B as well. Like, if the restrictions do change, what would plan B look like? And am I okay with maybe a negative cash flow to be able to just hold the property, maybe paying $100 a month to keep the property afloat for the appreciation pop? And also to, push comes to shove, if those restrictions change, what's the reality of me being able to sell it, to be able to get off my books? But I think because it's so many things that we just can't control, being able to look at it from both perspectives and feeling okay with what the numbers of the plan B is going to actually be.
Yeah, I think that's very important to take into consideration. Plan A, short-term rentals. Plan B, furnished midterm rentals. Plan C, regular long-term rentals. Plan D, you sell it. So I think all those things need to be taken into consideration before one would invest.
And how would you quantify the risk in short-term rentals? Because you said a few minutes ago, Shalom, that short-terms are riskier. But how would someone like us quantify that? How would an investor quantify that? Like, how riskier is it?
I think it depends on where.
Okay.
Right? If it's in a city or like a municipality that's already been regulated, I'd say it's less risky. But I can't think of any way to quantify it realistically and accurately.
Okay.
Could call up your local city commissioners or people that would be involved in zoning, see how they're feeling about, or what kind of complaints they're getting. And they sometimes say some things, what's coming up, and I think that's a good way of at least getting a pulse as to how this, because they're in charge of these regulations. So might as well call them and see, what they're thinking.
And so you're saying the risk is more about if the municipality changes the rules, like, hey, great, Lauren, you can Airbnb your place. Oh, Lauren, now you can't. Like, that's the biggest risk. It's just the laws changed, like the Springs did last year or Denver did 3 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably the biggest risk is something like what happened in March of last year, just COVID happening. And I mean,
Black Swan.
Yeah, we freaked out. And to me, I'm actually kind of happy in retrospect because I just can't think of anything worse. All of my short-term rentals, I went to midterm or long-term. I did it quickly. I was fine. But to me, that's the absolute worst thing that could happen. I don't know what else would be worse than that. Just people not traveling.
Fair point.
And yeah, in that worst case scenario, which occurred, we had to cut some deals really fast through Airbnb. They were pretty much breaking even. I don't think any of our owners actually lost money during the craziest time.
Like this first, like March, April of last year, like this first couple of months?
Yeah, and even during the summer, because some people booked for 6 months, like, we just have to stay put. We got to be here. And we were like, we don't know how long this is going for. So we let them book for that long. And it did work out. And I mean, just the rates now are so high that, let's say the laws do change, I would foresee better cash flow in a midterm rental than a long term as a backup plan.
I feel like one more question, we keep, I think everybody has kind of stamped, Airbnb as the short-term rental term, but there are so many other channels to advertise and platforms to put your short-term rental on out of, I think it's VRBO, Airbnb.
HomeAway is the same thing as VRBO.
Okay, perfect. So of all those, those big three platforms, which one do you think is most beneficial for the operator, or is it putting all three, putting your property on all three?
Airbnb. Well, it depends on where you are. I think we're just talking about America right now.
Yeah.
Airbnb by far in urban areas. Once you go outside urban areas, if you're in the mountains, Vrbo has a lot more market share out there. Everyone else is just really quite a small player. You also have to also direct bookings. That's also important. Like if you can cut out the middleman, that's great too. So that's something we're working on now.
And that'd be through like your own website?
Yeah,
correct.
Just through direct bookings. We can get return guests who can just cut out. Generally, it's about a 15% cut that these guys are taking. But also, if you're gonna include, let's say Booking.com, TripAdvisor, those are some of the smaller players. It gets really complex because then you need a property management system that ensures that you're not double booking, right? And if you have, let's say, different softwares like cleaning softwares or pricing softwares, you need to make sure that everything's uniform and it gets quite complicated.
If you have one property and you're in an urban area, I would say stay on Airbnb.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe with HomeAway or VRBO, same company, and that's about it.
And is there any sort of like fee that's different between the three platforms?
Yeah. HomeAway, well, since we're a property manager, they charge us 5% for every booking.
Okay.
They charge that to us. They also charge the guest another 10 or 12%. So it's not so different though. Okay. It's not enough to, not do the investment or something like that. So
okay.
Yeah. So as we kind of wrap this up, guys, like what exact service do you offer? Obviously, you offer hands-off short-term property management. Are there other services you offer for coaching and consulting for people that want to do it themselves but need help getting things up? Like what all do you offer at AirSimplicity?
Don't have consulting or coaching, but I'm very keen on helping people. I think just developing relationships that way to me is very important. So people call me often just asking, hey, is this property good? What area should we go to? Just a whole bunch of questions. And yeah, we're happy to help with whatever people need. And then from an operational standpoint,
yeah, I was going to say Shalom basically is involved in new client acquisition, helping out people, like directing them into different places. Like if we're not going to manage the property, Shalom will help them find a different manager. Yeah. And, I'm more on the back end operationally with all the finances, dealing with tons of just the amount of transactions that we're dealing with, a very high volume business. If you have one property, that's 10 bookings a month times 30 properties times, everything else that's going on. And, so what do? I mean, we can turn an empty house into a fully functioning, awesome Airbnb, start to finish. Depending on what kind of shape the house is in, we'll see if we want to do that. But we're managing all the communication from the guests at all times, 24/7, 365, pricing the units per demand in the area. So we're definitely aware of, what the pricing is around us. So just to be super competitive, not going below the market, obviously, managing the listings, all the cleanings, maintenance, everything you could think of. So that's really what hands off means, that the owner is pretty much doing nothing.
And then
you can add to that?
on the onboarding, we're definitely helpful as well. I mean, I've done some renovations for, not myself, but helped contract out renovations for some clients, furnishing, designing, just making sure all those finishing touches are there, getting the photographer, and just making sure that the place is as good as it can be, and the ranking is as optimized as possible. And then once that happens, it's smooth sailing.
And in general, I could talk about our company, and most companies, they'll charge a percentage on the booking revenue. So let's say you have $1,000 booking and $100 cleaning fee. The 20 to 25% is charged on that $1,000 booking revenue, the nightly rate. So we're not charging on the gross amount, just on the actual.
Say that again.
Yeah. So let's say you have a $1,100 booking. Of that booking, $100 is the cleaning fee that gets routed directly to a cleaner.
Okay.
The $1,000 is the nightly rate that the guest paid. So we'll take 20 to 25% of that $1,000 as our management fee. That's what we charge, and that's how most companies do it as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are there any pitfalls people need to look out for because I know like long-term property management, oh, hey, this management fee looks great, but then maintenance markups are like, holy crap, like they kill you with maintenance markups. Like, are there things like what should people look for? Like, any pitfalls as you look at
we're generally not marking up. And if we would mark up, we would talk to the owner first. If we're going to manage a massive like if there was a flood and we had to manage that whole project, we're going to talk to the owner and be like, hey, like we're going to be spending tons of hours on this. Our team's going to be put to work here. We need to like be paid a little bit extra for that work.
Which makes sense. I mean, you're a project manager at that point, not just, go out there and see whether the HVAC isn't working.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But we're all about transparency. We don't like hidden fees. We want to be upfront. We don't want anyone to be disappointed. Yeah, but things like lawn care, snow removal, these are things that sometimes people get surprised that that's like a fee that we paid someone to shovel the snow, and then we charge the owner for that. So people don't always think about those seasonal things.
Yeah.
The consumables, which we talked about, the what else? Mm-hmm. Cleaning fees too. So
okay,
it could seem like a lot, but that's all part of it.
Great. All right. So what's the best place for people to get in touch with you guys? I know your website is AirSimplicity.co.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
Colorado.
Correct, right?
Yeah.
So what's the best way for people to hold you, pick your brains, all this stuff? Like, how can people learn more about you guys?
Probably through email. Shalom at AirSimplicity.co. It would be a good place to start and just get a conversation going.
And our direct line, 720-778-1053. Maybe I said that too fast, but
that was impressive when you rattled that off. We'll put that in the show notes, but that was impressive.
Thank you.
And I want to, if I can be helpful to anyone who's trying to assess what the value of a property is, like I mentioned, it can be difficult because AirDNA is not super reliable, but just using our comps and other comps on the market, we do our best to get close.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, thank you so much. Yeah, we appreciate it. Lauren, thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for having us.
Great.
Really appreciate it.
So this has been Jonathan Shalom with AirSimplicity. If you guys have questions, definitely reach out to them. They've been very helpful and knowledgeable with me and Lauren the last few months. We appreciate it, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.